Hey, this is Allen Robinson from the Jacksonville Jaguars, and you're listening to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the FantasyJocks.com studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Hi, this is Jamison Crowder from your hopes, your dreams, your nightmares, your championship, your lack thereof. Curse splat.
Do you think that people love Jamison Crowder, and a lot of people hate Jamison Crowder?
Do you think that when he let go of the ball, his first thought was, I just lost some people some fantasy titles?
Had to have been.
At least his first, second, and third thought.
The game was out of reach. He had to have been focusing on. I got one this morning from a Foot Clan member that said he needed 1 point on the final drive from Crowder. When he caught the ball, he won. When he fumbled the ball, he lost. And you know what his team was? It was Jamison Crowder and Jordan Reed against Dustin Hopkins. He was winning by 5 going into the night with Crowder and Reed versus Hopkins.
Wow.
Welcome to the show.
Oh, man.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast for Tuesday, December 20th. We're back again. We have some waiver talk on today's show. Definitely going to recap last night's affair. I have had a lot of listeners ask me if I got enough from Cam Newton to get into the title game against Jason in the Listener League, and the answer is no.
So close.
2.9 points is what I fell 2.9 points short.
Yeah.
And we knew it with 11 minutes left in the fourth. Jason and I were talking, and I said, if he does not get into the end zone right here, I think I come up short because of the game flow.
Would you rather have had that situation
Then lose horribly like you?
or my situation where I needed a bunch of points from Cousins and Reed? Clearly that did not happen. But I knew maybe halfway through the first quarter when Cousins just looked awful. All of his passes were off target. Jordan Reed was not on the field except for third down occasionally. You knew it wasn't going to happen at the very beginning of the game. However, there's always that hope inside you of, well, he can do it. I've seen him have – I remember the second half of the Dallas game where he came out and just every possession was a touchdown. But overwhelmingly you knew it was not going to happen. Would you rather have the whole game or just the end of the game go, it's not going to happen?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
they both suck.
Yeah, they both just stink. I mean, last night, what do we do with this? I mean, people want to know. Rule 86.
So Jason and I were talking about this before the show, and we were trying to remember the real birth of the rule, and we can't remember. Was the rule if Jordan Reed is healthy, you play him, or if Jordan Reed is active, you play him? Do you remember what the original rule was?
The rule instead of Jordan Reed is healthy, you play him.
Exactly.
And
that's what my thought was too. I still played him. He's not healthy.
No,
clearly.
Andy said it best yesterday on Twitter. Fool 86 was
he
what
made a
it
fool
turned
of us
into.
all.
Oh,
Yeah.
and then himself with that dummy punch that moved
Have you
Kirk
guys?
Cousins
That's
out of.
not a wise move.
Have you ever been so mad that you punched a guy with a helmet on?
I have not. I will say this though.
What are you accomplishing?
He
Look,
was mad at his shoulder.
We apologize.
He was.
I mean, Jordan Reed owners, they're pissed. They're upset. Thankfully, it's not just us saying, hey, you start Jordan Reed and then not be punished ourselves. Mike,
I played him. I went down.
You took one on the chin, but we have got to say something to Mr. Gruden out there. And what in the world was he doing in that game? There was a point when I was watching where after 2 plays in a row where you could see he got hurt 2 plays in a row, barely getting touched, and was trying to tough it out. And then the next shot was of the huddle, and you saw Jordan Reed's back, and I went, why is he still – are you trying to win or are you trying to lose? You're playing with 10 guys on 11.
Jordan Reed was hit so lightly at the end of that play he was in agony. It wasn't even funny. It looked like a soccer injury. He was barely touched. We thought the injury happened on the block because we're going, why are you having him block with the shoulder? It didn't. He blocks. Then he turns, and a guy comes up and just barely touches him, and he goes down in agony. and stays in the game.
He should not have, and then stayed in the game.
I think Mike was right. He said he wanted a way out of that game. I mean, it was
when you threw the punch.
Yeah.
If you're a warrior and you don't want to be that guy who is, you tell the coach, guys, it hurts too much. I'm not in the football culture, but I've heard that when you say something hurts too much, it's very frowned upon. How do you fix that? You get ejected.
He ruined that drive for them.
He ruined the game at that point, because had they scored a touchdown, which they were really close to doing, the game script flips.
All right, I do want to go back and forth here on a few good beats, bad beats.
We got to get to this quick question because there's some interesting turns that you don't know about.
Yeah, you might not even know about this quick question, Andy.
Wait a minute. I've never seen this.
Yeah, we're hijacking.
Do you want to do this before I get into the bad beats and good beats?
Yes,
Yeah.
we'll start it here.
Commish question from our
So,
writers. I have no idea what
we've
this
been
is.
chatting with our writers. We're on a Slack channel, and is it the writer in the league or was it their friend? I can't recall.
I think it was just someone in his league. But
Okay, so their rule book says the playoffs will reseed based on seeding, of course, and we all know what that means. So the one will play the lowest seed of who remains in the semifinals.
Sure.
Highest plays the lowest, yeah.
They go through, the weekend is played out. Someone then calls to attention the seeds were not changed. So this changes.
This is called to attention when?
After the week. Let's say today.
Okay.
And so now it's, the rule book, everyone knew the rules.
And they have an official rule book. He showed a picture. It was like
the official rules say that the playoffs, they will reseed. So that will change who is the victor and who has lost based on the matchups.
Now, Mike and I know our answers, so I'm interested to hear yours, Andy.
Well, first, obviously, shame on everybody for letting it get to this point.
Yes.
Because you can say, oh, they have an official rule book that no one looked at for the most important week of the year. In my opinion, the rule has to be followed. The victories are changed.
Wow.
And I was completely on board. Both Jason and I were like, well, the answer is easy.
Yeah, I thought the answer was easy and obvious.
And Jason's like, you didn't see it. No one noticed. And now...
it needs to be changed.
Yeah. So I completely agree. If you knew the rule going into the year,
if you knew the rule and you've been playing that way for years, it's just a mistake on not changing.
Okay, let me argue just real quick for the other side.
Hold on, I'll argue for you. You're going to say something about the matchups and the way you play.
I'm going to say that's part of it, right? Yeah. I mean, you play based on who your opponent is. Maybe I would have changed my roster, my lineup, whatever. But in addition to that, you had people make mistakes. Commissioners make mistakes all the time. Oh, I forgot this draft pick was gone. If nobody figures it out and points it out, this wasn't a devious thing. The system didn't auto refresh. You had time to look at the matchups. And honestly, I think that whoever found out afterwards that it didn't reseed, they might have known beforehand. The people that looked to see if it reseeded, they might have looked and gone, oh, maybe I like this matchup better. Who knows? But you had 3 days to figure that out and say something before the week, or even maybe it was after the Thursday game or the Friday or the Saturday. But you're telling me you wait until after you have lost and then you bring up the seeding?
Well, it depends who brought it up, too. I mean, it's not necessarily a losing team. If somebody noticed it, innocent mistake that can be corrected quite easily.
We got to have a poll on this one, but here's the most interesting.
They're both terrible.
Here's the most interesting part about this, Andy.
Okay.
Do we reseed?
Do we reseed in our league of record?
I believe that it automatically reseeds.
So the reason we bring this up,
we don't.
You always say that we reseed, and we were taking a look at ours because I brought up the fact that I think it automatically reseeds, and had we reseeded, Mike would be in the championships because he would have played a different opponent and won. So I think
the answer is who cares? I wasn't in the championship game. Wow. Okay.
I guess it's a split vote. You guys are going to have to fight to the death in that league.
Well, we don't have a printed rule book, and we haven't manually changed them any year.
Right.
So
ours
is
easy.
We really don't.
You better believe if we had a rule book, I would have hit everyone in the face with it
Wouldn't be Rule 86, that's for sure. All right. Listen to a couple stories from listeners. We had them send in some voicemails. Have you guys heard these already?
I have not.
Not the voicemails, no.
Okay, here you go.
Hey guys, Chris from Florida here. I need help. My question is, how do I overcome such devastating losses due to stat corrections? I missed out on the championship by .02 points. I say again, .02 points because Crowder fumbled at the end of the game, and they marked him a yard short, and they took off a yard, so it messed up Cousins and Crowder. And I thought I won, and I lost by .02 when I woke up this morning.
Oh,
I'm
no!
sick to my stomach. How do I deal with that devastation? Any help, man? I need it.
You went to bed.
I love the show. Thanks.
Oh, that hurts my heart that you went to bed a winner.
You went to bed a winner by like a point. Or
Oh, man.
.8.
Here's the first thing you do. You hope.
You wait
and
for
you pray
Thursday.
for Thursday's stat correction, and you just say, come on, more stat corrections. I'm close. I'm within that window. Because on Thursday, the NFL will make the official changes. That's when most of the ESPN, the Yahoos, they do their final stat corrections. And you could wake up on Thursday, be the champ. It's probably not going to happen.
True.
Oh.
It's true. Here is another one.
Yes, this is Mark from Cincinnati. I was calling to tell you about my good beat for the
Good
week.
beat.
Going into the Monday night games, I was down by .7. I had Crowder, and he had Reed with Davis on the bench. Thank God he stuck with Rule 86, kept Reed in the game, and I ended up winning the game by .6, thanks to Reed and his fantastic fish.
Wow.
Keep up the good work, guys. I'm listening to it every day. Thank you.
Jordan Reed.
So-
Mike was telling me that he heard a Mike Clay story.
Yeah, Mike Clay
Is
from,
that-
from ESPN.
Was that the Andy Barron story?
No, Andy Barron's also
'Cause he lost by .2.
he lost by the fumble. No, Mike Clay from ESPN, he lost because of Jordan Reed's one catch.
the one catch
I've seen that.
for
Yeah.
6 yards actually did it.
We had a listener win a championship on the Jonathan Stewart 30-yard scamper to end the game.
Just the way that played out for a playoff week on a Monday night was unbelievable. The drama was, even though I came out a half loser because I'm still going to the ship in our dynasty league. It was quite the night.
Yeah. This at JW4 needed 20 points from Amari Cooper, Sammy Watkins, and Jamison Crowder, and got 10.
Yeah, and look, this is part of why fantasy football is so great. The fact that these kinds of losses, you're feeling this type of pain that makes when you win. That's why it's so great, because this pain is so awful and agonizing for a ridiculous game.
You can't have the high of victory without the sadness of
Yes,
defeat.
my friend, the yin and the yang. You
That's
need it
right.
both.
And you get a story to tell for years
Yes.
to come.
You don't know good without bad, but
And
here's
you
the
get
other
to hate Jamison Crowder or love him for the rest of your natural life.
Here's the other great part is that while we were watching this game, the game was not that good. Like, if I was just a football fan, I was like, Washington looks
all right.
kind of inept. It was okay. But that game was intense. Every play mattered because this is playoffs in fantasy football.
At KG Reynolds says, any thoughts on that Odell drop that was called a catch? Can that be a stat correction? I'm afraid not,
No,
my friend.
that's a catch
I'm afraid
now.
not. You cannot stat correct something that was not reviewed, challenged, and changed on the field unless you just want to do it in your heart.
Oh, it's terrible.
It was certainly not a catch, though.
No, it certainly wasn't. So that screenshot can be your new logo.
News and notes from around the league.
I was wrong. The Texans named Tom Savage their starter for Week 16.
Yes.
RG3 will start Week 16. Cody Kessler may play. They may go to Cody Kessler quite soon in this game. Stay far, far away from all Browns.
I agree. You can't
Minus
start RG3.
maybe Isaiah Crowell. That would be the one player.
Especially, I don't know if it's lower down in the news, but Terrell Pryor is dealing with ligament damage. He's going to play through it, but
Doesn't matter.
Yep. Well, I'm just saying, if you're going to be getting low volume targets, you're going to be getting bad targets, and you have a bum hand.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Big names, Julio Jones and Melvin Gordon. On the Melvin Gordon front, Mike McCoy said we're going to see how it goes. Says he's chomping at the bit to play, but we're going to see if he practices. Julio Jones with the toe will have a full-speed test on Wednesday to see if he is available to play. And we talked about A.J. Green yesterday. Very likely to play this week, but we don't know what that will entail snap count-wise. Practice will be important for all three of those guys to kind of get more of a gauge of how they can contribute to your championship week. It sure would be nice to be able to play your studs. So I'm going to send a memo out to those guys. Let them know what's going on with the Foot Clan wanting to play A.J. Green, Julio Jones, and Melvin Gordon.
I think that Julio's going to play. Just my initial gut reaction.
We have a concussion trade.
Yes.
Darren Sproles has been cleared from his. Kenyon Barner now has one.
Bad news for Ryan Matthews. Kenyon Barner was still behind Ryan Matthews. Darren Sproles is ahead of Ryan Matthews. Makes it to where I don't want anyone involved there personally.
Shane Vereen suffered another torn triceps.
That is brutal. He was not really fantasy relevant at this point, but that is
Just sad for the dude.
Also,
stinks, man.
You skipped the most important news.
Skipped?
Yeah, the most important news so far.
Maybe just waited till the end because it was so important.
Oh, yeah.
Is this Bryce Petty or Jared Goff
This
news?
is the Jared Goff news.
Oh,
And it's not Jared Goff news.
This guy over here. Wait till
Go ahead.
Wait till
Share
you
it.
hear what this guy's about
I have
to
no
do.
idea what you're going to say.
Share it.
What, they're considering starting Sean Mannion at quarterback?
Yes, they are. And if Jared Goff is out with a concussion in our championship listener league, I am playing Sean Mannion. That's not even a joke. I'm doing it. I'm going glory play.
His team
Who
is,
are your other options?
I got Big Ben at home against Baltimore. That's my other option.
Yeah, I
How
know.
in the world would
No.
you not play Big Ben
He-
at home, you psychopath?
because he wants the magic. Jason
He
has
wants to win with Sean Mannion at
he has
quarterback.
had an just unbelievably magic season where he's nowhere near the top
I
scoring.
look at your roster; it's terrible.
It is awful.
and
I
he's
mean,
in the championship.
I have won week after
Shame
week
on you,
after
listeners.
week. I've paired it together. You know, I grabbed Charles Clay, and I've done enough things to just make crazy moves to put me over the top. This is the most.
In other words,
magic
I
move.
was 2.9 points
Away
from
from
playing
a
against
championship.
Sean Mannion.
yes.
There you
And
go.
I have great matchups next week. I didn't have a Julio. The
I know
pain.
it's not fair.
The pain.
It's
Wow.
not fair.
Bryce Petty's
can't-
likely to start in Week 16 for the Jets. Hooray, Robby Anderson fans.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go in and try to win a title with Robby Anderson myself.
Yeah. He's probably a good play.
Yeah, you might be right.
I mean, he's been solid the last couple weeks. It's not just one.
Let me
flash.
ask you a question, guys. What head coach has had the last winning record for the Buffalo Bills?
Oh. What? Oh, Gailey?
Doug Marrone,
Oh,
wow.
the new interim head coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Hmm.
Maybe we should pronounce it like the car.
Jaguar.
Jaguar. Charles Robinson of Yahoo reports that Jon Gruden has become the focal point of the Rams' list of head coaching candidates. This is kind of interesting because Gruden actually likes Jared Goff.
And you know, people on Twitter.
Gruden likes everybody.
He does. He does.
I
Every
saw-
play is the greatest play in the history of the NFL.
People on Twitter were asking if if Jon Gruden was a little quieter last night. They sensed a change in his
He did
comments.
seem quiet. There were like times on last night's broadcast that he didn't speak for like a minute or two.
Yeah, he's changing. He's
Probably
gearing
signing
up.
paperwork.
Or was it a matter of it's his brother is the coach of the team that is stinking, and he either doesn't want to rail on his brother, or he's upset and sad for his brother that they're blowing out the playoffs.
They're
I'm
what?
gonna-
Yeah, I didn't.
I'm
I
gonna go
couldn't-
with signing papers, Mike.
I don't know.
It would be very interesting to have him back in coaching. However,
I would be very sad to lose him for Monday night.
see, that's what I was about to say. As much as I like him, it's okay. Monday night's okay. Collinsworth is so much better.
It's a completely different show.
It's football, Mike.
But I'm saying it's a different network. These are not related.
I know, but I'm just saying Al Michaels and I was listening last night, and I was wishing it was Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth.
Well, I mean, they're the GOAT.
Yeah. All
They,
right.
they are the GOAT. This is like a costume where someone is the butt and someone's the face.
Sure.
All right. Hey, before we move on to the rest of the show, I want to thank today's sponsor, the Fandings app. You've heard us talking about them. This is a place where you get into ferocious sports debates in Foot Clan. They have recently updated the app. They got a new design. It is even cleaner. It's even easier to use. Users are loving the update. It's easier to vote. It's easier to challenge. You want to debate things like what we were talking about with should you stick to the rule book. These are the kinds of things that you can do over on the Fandings app. They are constantly growing, constantly adding new features. There's a new monthly leaderboard, player rankings. Let the world know that you are the master of the sports debate. They feature questions on the hottest topics in sports every day. Debate your friends. Destroy some random opponent. They're judged and they're juried right on the app. And right now anyone can play. You can go to playfandings.com. That's playfandings.com. Whether you're on a computer or an Android, they got you covered. And, of course, iOS people, download the Fandings app for free in the App Store. Check them out. Let them know that the Fantasy Footballers sent you.
And, it's been a couple days since we have reminded you about Pristine Auction.
The best.
PristineAuction.com is the best place to get any kind of cool merchandise, signed, autographed, authentic signatures that they come certified. It's the real deal with Pristine Auction. This is where I'm going to go to get my signed Sean Mannion jersey when I win my championship. And here's the reality.
Unbelievable.
This is the time of year. There are a lot of people who have already won their championship, and there are people that are going to the championship. You commemorate that. You grab, a signed jersey of the player or the players that got you to that point. You put it up on your wall. You get it off the wall at your next draft, and you put that thing on. You wear the signed jersey of whoever it is that gets you to the championship, and you go to your draft next year and you rub it in their faces, and it's more affordable than you think. You've got to check out Pristine Auction. It's a great place. It's PRISTINE auction.com. It's free to make an account, and when you do, make sure that you tell them that the Fantasy Footballers where you heard about them.
Put me in, coach.
You're lying to the people. There's no way Sean Mannion has a jersey available.
No, I checked, and he's not there yet.
Yet. Until this glorious week. You can't be serious.
Here's the deal.
I mean, now you're on the record.
No.
Hundreds of thousands of people have heard your idiocy.
All right. I'm throwing this out there. I don't want any Foot Clan listeners to start Sean Mannion. It's a dumb play. It's a true glory play. I feel like I'm in a position where I would rather have that as an underdog as the glory play. But I believe Sean Mannion is a better quarterback than Jared Goff. I really do. He showed it in preseason. I think that Jared Goff just has a bigger arm, but Sean Mannion is a quality backup quarterback, I believe, and they're playing the San Francisco 49ers.
That's the key.
And so, the unexpected play.
There's no key odds for this.
If Goff is out, I really will play him.
Oh, man.
All right.
And I hope nobody else out there does.
If you are heading into your championship matchup or third place matchup, we've got your waiver wire figured out. It's been a different type of week. Obviously, You've had a lot of people stash players for the playoffs, been listening for a few weeks. Quarterbacks, we have our, the streaming quarterback options. They're thin, all right? They're thin if you take our standard of only having like a, 50% 50 to 60% ownership percentage. But let's fly through some wide receiver options right now. The big names that I would say need to be paid attention to, we already said one of them, Robby Anderson, because he's barely owned. He was 4 for 80 and a touchdown last week. And if his best friend for life, Bryce Petty, is available and healthy, which it looks like he will be, Robby Anderson is another sneaky glory play type of guy.
He's a very startable wide receiver 3.
When you hear Brandon Marshall was 1 for 11 on the targets, and you've seen Robby Anderson have success 3 straight weeks, you guys are right in that he plays against New England. So temper the scoring expectations.
The nice thing about Robby Anderson is no matter how much he becomes the main guy for Bryce Petty, no opposing team will focus on Robby Anderson over Brandon Marshall because they know that he is the more talented player that could burn them. It leaves Robby Anderson open to secondary coverage. And the thing is it's not like Robby Anderson is – I know he's had a touchdown in 2 of the 3 weeks that Bryce Petty's been there, but he's also putting up enough yardage to where, 2 weeks ago he had 99 yards. And no touchdown and had a fine fantasy game. This week, 80 and 61 3 weeks ago. So I do think Robby Anderson is a startable player in New England.
The amazing thing to me is the amount of questions we're already getting about Ty Montgomery and not playing Ty Montgomery, as though the 16 for 60, 162 and 2 game didn't happen. I don't know why. I don't know why. I mean, he's still available in 40+% of leagues in both Yahoo and ESPN. To me, he's the number 1 pickup, unless you guys are counting Alshon Jeffery, who's owned in most leagues. So for me, I'd be signing Ty Montgomery, flexibility in ESPN to play him in wide receiver or in the running back spot, which means if you're an AJ Green or a Julio Jones or an owner of an injured guy, talk about great flexibility with Ty Montgomery.
The question is really that Minnesota matchup and whether or not they are good as they've been or whether they're phoning it in now that they are virtually out.
Their rush defense has been very beatable all year.
So that's where, I am playing Ty Montgomery, and I agree. I think he's a good pickup. I also think Taylor Gabriel, it's hard to play a guy that gets as few touches as Taylor Gabriel or Tyreek Hill, but at a certain point, you have to turn that corner and say he's done it so many times where he is winning people fantasy matchups. I'm willing to put Taylor Gabriel out there, and he's still available in about 40% of leagues. And, we're only looking at this point for guys that you would start this week. And Carolina's defense.
You're not stashing for weeks that don't exist.
Right. Carolina's defense has been beat over the top. Obviously, they weren't last night. Kirk Cousins got the yards, but no touchdowns. I think Taylor Gabriel is a guy that I would be willing to start, but I would start him behind Ty Montgomery, and I would start him behind Robby Anderson.
I agree with that. Other names to mention, we said Alshon Jeffery. Only about 20% of leagues he's available.
Yeah, so he's probably not.
Dontrelle Inman and Malcolm Mitchell.
Malcolm Mitchell, I think I'd play over most of those guys I just mentioned.
Yeah, I'd rather play Dontrelle Inman than I would Malcolm Mitchell.
Mitchell gets the Jets. Inman gets Cleveland. They're both really good matchups.
Inman has been at that 5 or 6 catch number for, I think, 4 or 5 straight weeks now.
Yeah.
And so
he's there.
Depends what you are looking for.
I think Mitchell has more touchdown upside, personally, especially against the Jets. I know he was 1 for 14 last week, but you knew that was going to happen. You had the rookie going up against the best corners in the league in Denver.
Yeah, I don't mind his bad play against Denver. Name wide receivers that have done good against Denver this week. I'll wait.
This week
no one's played this year.
Oh, okay.
But before that, I mean, you talk about Inman had 4 or 5 catches. You got Malcolm Mitchell with 4 catches, 5 catches, 8 catches, and 4 catches, 4 touchdowns in his last 4 games prior to Denver, and now he plays the New York Jets. Malcolm Mitchell, to me, I would start over almost all those guys.
Ty Montgomery?
I would start Malcolm Mitchell over Ty Montgomery. I think he's got the higher upside. Montgomery is safer to me. Malcolm Mitchell has a higher upside.
Don't forget.
I'd say I'm more interested in Montgomery replacing a running back than I am for a wide receiver. Like I have Doug Martin. Doug Martin just goes into the Superdome, takes on the Saints. At this point, I would probably play Montgomery over Martin or one of these running back 2s who you thought was an okay 2 because Montgomery has such big upside.
Don't forget that if you're in a keeper league, a dynasty league, if you are in a position where you can sign a player, let's say even if you're eliminated, if you can sign somebody that's a potential keeper value to you, don't forget to peruse your waiver wire for these guys. Keenan Allen might be sitting there on your waiver wire. There are other players in dynasty leagues, the CJ Prosises of the world, these guys that have been ruled out for the season.
What's ironic is
that might just be sitting there. Ameer Abdullah is another guy.
Yeah.
That is on injured reserve that you can be thinking about. So
Ty Montgomery to me
Hunter Henry
Hunter Henry's great. If it turns out that Antonio Gates retires this year, that being said, I don't usually like to keep a tight end, but Ty Montgomery, should Eddie Lacy move on and they not draft a running back, if those 2 things happen, and you've just got him on your bench, that keeper deadline's coming up, we could be talking next year about, look, Ty Montgomery is the starting running back for the Packers, and he's good.
Then he will be a top 3-round pick.
Yeah.
If Montgomery's starting for Green Bay.
Top 3 round, yeah.
Yeah, he'll be in there.
Right. All right, let's talk about running back options here on the waiver wire for desperate owners that want to start somebody. Yeah, you can talk about him in every category. To be honest, it's pretty thin. I brought up Dion Lewis on yesterday's show because he had 18 carries. You wonder if this was his opportunity to kind of take a stranglehold of more of that backfield. He did well with the 18 carries, 95 yards. Takes on the Jets, a very beatable team. I think his ability to get into space and do some damage not between the tackles is helpful in that game. And I bring him up because he's only 43% owned as opposed to some of these other names on the list that are, Bilal Powell is 86% owned in ESPN.
You're not going to get him.
You're not going to get him. Derrick Henry is another 40% owned guy.
Are you willing to play him, though?
Derrick Henry?
Yeah,
I'm willing to play Derrick Henry
9
against
carries?
Jacksonville.
He has been
No,
getting,
I am. I am willing to play him.
He's been getting
It's
more,
all compared to who else you have.
Yeah.
But if I had to choose between Derrick Henry and Dion Lewis,
I'm playing Dion Lewis.
if I'm in a half or full, I'm playing Lewis. Otherwise, I'm playing Henry for sure.
All right, that's fair. Kenneth Farrow.
He's a good pickup.
I know he was very disappointing. 15 for 39.
Who is?
Kenneth Farrow, just because of the matchup.
The king of Egypt became the
Prince of Persia.
the Duke.
The
Duke.
Prince of Persia.
The Prince of Persia can turn back time. I've seen the movie.
Pharaoh stayed in the sarcophagus.
Yes, there you go. That's exactly right.
There was no mummy action.
And the thing is because of that, he might be dropped.
Yeah,
Sure.
he's already, and you can even pick him up in 40% of leagues. But if Melvin Gordon doesn't play, Kenneth Farrow gets to play Cleveland.
And make no mistake, that's gets to.
It's
a privilege. It's an honor. It's a treat.
And he got 15 carries, 17 touches last week, Kenneth Farrow did. So, if he gets, 17 touches against Cleveland.
I was thinking about getting some of my close friends a gift for Christmas, and the gift was going to be the opportunity to actually play running back against the Cleveland Browns.
That's a great
Alfred
gift.
Blue is completely available and should be completely owned because who knows what's going to happen with Lamar Miller this week. They have Cincinnati on the docket. If Lamar Miller has to miss this game and you have Tom Savage, they're going to feed the rock to Akeem Hunt and to Alfred Blue, and Blue's the guy that's going to have the volume.
If you're a Lamar Miller owner, you have to pick up Alfred Blue.
Spend everything you have.
I don't think Lamar Miller misses. I think Lamar Miller plays, and then Alfred Blue is completely worthless. But the chance that the ankle injury that happened to Lamar Miller at the end of the game keeps him out means you got to protect yourself, and Alfred Blue would be a very good pickup should Lamar Miller be missing.
Adrian Peterson, Ryan Matthews, Bilal Powell. Those are the other three names. They're much more owned.
I feel like he's last year's Timmy.
Tim Hightower?
Yeah, he's coming in, putting up massive fantasy production at the end of the year. Obviously, Forte was active, kind of. He played
so was Jordan
a couple
Reed.
of snaps. So we don't know if Forte's if his involvement will go up. It's not the best matchup against New England, but at this point, I think you have to be starting Bilal Powell. Problem is he's owned in most leagues, 86% of leagues.
Tight end wise, for those looking for that desperate final tight end play, maybe you got a very bad performance last week from a streamer. Cameron Brate is still available.
What is going on with Cameron Brate, people?
35% on ESPN, 22% on Yahoo.
Okay, Yahoo's
so he's
got it
mostly
going on.
owned.
All right.
He's mostly owned. But, other deeper options, I would say Jermaine Gresham.
Oh, big Gresh.
Is still another a deep option. Not a huge week, but I think he had 4 catches.
I put Jesse James on this list in the event that Ladarius Green is out with that concussion.
That's great.
Jesse James won't be a high volume guy, but we saw him at the beginning of the season catch his touchdowns.
Could roll this 3-sided coin and see which Indianapolis Colt tight end lands. One of them will probably have a good game.
Speaking of that,
Ryan Griffin.
If the Mad Hatter is out.
Ryan Griffin is owned in 2% of leagues, had 8 catches last week, and if Fedorowicz misses another game, even if he doesn't, you might be able to do worse than Ryan Griffin.
Yeah.
Because I'm just saying, Griffin
maybe.
had games this year.
Yeah. They're mostly
you're-
just,
I mean,
it's
you're
on the
playing-
back of a touchdown, though. You're not getting volume.
You're
So,
playing with fire there.
Here's a guy who I was extremely disappointed in last week. Obviously, he
Was it my team, Jason?
no, it was just you.
Yeah, how are you doing this morning, Mike?
I've kind of moved on a little bit. No,
Was this how last night was?
I go with, no. You need some rage music because I wanted to take down the entire system.
Did you drown your sorrows in any Jack in the Box?
No, not last night. But the fact that Washington lost, I reveled and I cherished that moment.
Sorry, Jason. You were
Because
speaking. You were speaking about somebody that
I hated
disappointed
them.
you.
Yes. The narrative did not work out last week. I will fully admit that. He got 1 catch for 11 yards, my start of the week.
No.
Antonio Gates did not look good last week. He had been on a stretch of 4 or 5 receptions for his last 6 or 7 games where he played the full game. This week, they're playing the Cleveland Browns, who are, I just said a minute ago, I rode Charles Clay last week into the championship in our listener league because the Browns are the far and away worst team against the tight end. I promise, I cannot imagine a situation where Antonio Gates and Hunter Henry do not put up production. The question is going to be, who is it? I mean, last week, Antonio Gates was 1 for 11, while Hunter Henry was 3 for 37 and a touchdown. Most weeks this year, you've got Antonio Gates really having the more volume. Hunter Henry has been a great red zone option. But I think both of these guys are playable. And if they want to get Antonio Gates the touchdown record, they will never have they've got Kansas City in the final week. They've got Cleveland, who cannot guard a tight end in this week. I still like Antonio Gates.
That's fine. I'm not going to buy into that as my reasoning.
No, not the touchdown record.
Because you can't do whatever you want on a football field. It just doesn't happen.
No, I agree. It's not.
You can
the touchdown
try,
record.
but you don't get it.
But if you do look back at Antonio Gates, several games before this last game, 5 receptions, 4, 4, 5, 4, 5.
Sure.
And he's got, 60 yards, 63, 73.
I'd rather play him than, probably over Jermaine Gresham for the upside of your championship week. That's for sure. Defensive options. Do not forget your D. I don't think you have, because you wouldn't be where you're at if you have. But the Chargers play those illustrious Browns with RG3 and
they're available.
Cody Kessler. The Chargers are available in in 63% of leagues.
Yeah, we've been trying to tell you to pick them up. Come on, pick them up.
Our listeners probably are all of those owners. Bills versus the Dolphins, Texans against the Bengals, and the Giants against the Eagles. Are there any of those matchups you like?
Well, I love the Chargers.
Yeah.
And I like the Giants, man. The Giants have been playing great defense. Carson Wentz and the Eagles' offense really fell apart. And if they're going to take out their best running back, who just destroyed the Baltimore Ravens' elite running defense, then I don't think the Eagles will be able to do anything.
Yeah, there are a couple other teams that I absolutely love this week.
I'm going to go out there on a limb.
Sure.
I think the Bills' defense is one of the best of the week for sure. This is a divisional game. The Dolphins are in the playoff hunt. Last year, Rex Ryan destroyed the Jets at the end of the year. This game's at home. And let's not forget, this Bills team, they're a 500 team. This is not a trash team. They're 7-7. They have a good point differential. They've had some off games, but I just think this is a game that they're going to show up. I really do. And I think with Matt Moore traveling into Buffalo, whatever the weather may hold, the Bills, I think, are going to be one of the best defenses of the week. And I just don't want people to ignore them because the Dolphins are a winning team right now.
Sure, I completely agree with that. The two matchups that I really, really love, they're two good defenses playing at home against two of the worst offenses in the league, especially for fantasy against defense. Perfect storm lining up here. That's the Rams at home against San Francisco, and that's the Patriots at home against the New York Jets and Bryce Petty.
Yeah.
I mean, those two teams.
Those are great.
So you've got options this week. You need to make sure you're playing one of these.
So, Jason.
Yo.
Do you play defense with the defenses?
I think there's
Do you sign multiple defenses to keep them away from your opponent?
It's going to depend on what's available out there. As of right now, I feel like there's too many good options to successfully play keep away. But if there's only one of these guys out there on the waivers because, you had a lot of teams in the playoffs picking up multiple Ds and, the Chargers and the Bills are the only 2 Ds out there, then sure. Then I would pick up both and drop a guy I don't need to make sure that neither of those Ds gets played against me, but it's probably too many options this week to be successful at it.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about quarterbacks.
Full stream ahead.
Sean Mannion.
I cannot say that I like the quarterback streaming options, so my confidence level is not extremely high for these guys. The majority of the guys that I like are just plain owned in too many leagues.
And there's a lot of the streaming options.
Like Jameis Winston, 73% owned.
Bad matchups, too.
I went with Tyrod Taylor. I just said it. This is a 7-7 team. I know they ran all over the opponent last week, but I don't think they're going to be able to do that against that Miami front as easily. I think Tyrod Taylor is going to have to do something with his legs through the air. It's nice that he runs the ball. It gives you a baseline. If you need a streaming quarterback, that might be available on your waiver wire. I'm okay with Tyrod Taylor. End of my story.
Right. I know. You're exactly right. This is a very difficult week, and hopefully people looked ahead. We've been telling people pick up Jameis.
Maybe that's why the ownership percentages are high.
Phillip Rivers, pick up these guys that obviously they can't be streaming candidates now, but they're better options. So hopefully you're set. If you're not set, I'm going to throw out a really gross name for you. But I looked at it, and I actually do believe.
Pop the Imodium. Get ready.
Pop the Imodium.
And that name is going to be a guy who is surprisingly, he's the quarterback 13. He's almost QB1.
He was a quarterback 1 till last week.
And this is Blake Bortles. Yes, I know. He has had a terrible season. He has regressed to the point of collapse. But again, he is the quarterback 13. He has plenty of games. Indianapolis put up 34. Tennessee, he put up 39. He has
what? It makes a last surge there at the end. The flush that won't give up.
He has
That's what his season is.
Ability to put up points. And he's playing against Tennessee.
You're not wrong because he's 13.
And he's got the weapons.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It just makes me sick to my stomach.
And Tennessee this last week had a great week against Alex Smith. Before that, right before their bye, they gave up 28 points, 25, 35, 25, 39, 37, 28. I'm happy with 20 from Blake Bortles.
If he's off the Gus bus, maybe those fumes aren't in his face anymore. Maybe he can do something.
Yeah, air it out. And keep in mind, the last time, I know it was
They do need to air out the stench. You're right.
I know there was a lot of garbage time, but when Blake Bortles played the Titans last, he put up 39 points.
He's the king.
He is
King
the
of
garbage
garbage
king.
He's
All
the
right.
king of the garbage.
Mike, what disgusting name do you have to emit into the
Sean Mannion.
There's a couple names I've gone back and forth with. I'm okay with Matt Barkley against Washington, but I'm making my official guy Colin Kaepernick. Gets to take on the Rams. Their passing defense is not terrifying in the least. Colin Kaepernick, he had we know the collapse. Everyone knows about it when he just failed everyone miserably in that game against Chicago. But since then, he's been trending back up. He can always run. He had 183 yards and 2 touchdowns last week against Atlanta. I think that he's a fine play against the Rams. So he's my guy this week.
All right. A reminder, we will have the Footy Awards coming up again. Nominations for those awards, including last year's Garbage Man.
Yeah.
Last year
it's tougher this year. It was pretty easy last year. You knew
for garbage time.
You knew it was Blake Bortles.
Well, yeah, Jordan Matthews too.
Oh yeah,
he was in consideration. So
Wait, didn't Jordan Matthews win?
I can't remember.
I
Maybe
know.
Matthews beat Bortles.
No,
it was between those two guys. We'll have to bet
we'll
that.
refresh
But
your memory on
coming
the
up
last year's
Yeah,
footies.
next week, footies. Don't miss it.
Yeah, we'll get the nominations out there. Congrats to those of you moving on. Don't forget to check out jointhefoot.com, our fantasy football community, where you get an extra episode, live streams, giveaways, year-round fantasy community. There's over 3,400 listeners over there sharing good information, helping craft great leagues with good commissioner skills and strategies and thoughts and those type of things. A really fun place to be. And you can join a league. You can join a Foot Clan league over there at jointhefoot.com. So check out our community. We appreciate everybody out there who listens, who subscribes on iTunes, who listens on iHeartRadio, on Spotify, on Google Play, everywhere that we're broadcasting.
Fantasy Sports Network.
Yeah, on YouTube. So thank you for subscribing, for reviewing the show. And we will be back tomorrow. We'll have a playoff mailbag. We'll have some more fun stuff on the show tomorrow, including Pump the Brakes. And we'll be bringing a lot of fun and exciting off-season information.
Get your championship trophies from fantasyjocks.com with the code footballers.
Sean Mannion.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.